Hello everyone and welcome to this video. In this video we're going to get started with network sniffing with Tcpdump. Alright, now before we get started, it's very important to understand the fundamentals behind network. Alright, and first and foremost, what is network sniffing? Well, network sniffing is essentially the process of monitoring data that is traveling over a network. Alright, so you're just looking at the data that is being transferred around the network. That is what network sniffing is. Alright, so now you might be asking, well, what is Tcpdump? Well, Tcpdump is a traffic sniffer or a network sniffing tool. Alright, so these tools allow you to capture and monitor traffic on the network. Alright, so that is their goal. Their goal is to allow you to actually capture and monitor this network traffic on your network. Alright, and to capture packets, etc., etc. Alright, so in the previous video, we looked at some very essential terminology that is going to come in handy, and that is the address resolution protocol and the media access control address, alright, which is the MAC address, and we already looked at that. Now, Tcpdump is a very powerful packet capturing utility, alright, so it allows you to monitor any type of traffic, whether live or pre-captured. What do I mean by live or pre-captured? Live traffic means capturing it in real time, and you can also monitor pre-captured traffic that was stored in a pcap file. Alright, so I'm pretty sure you're already familiar with what a pcap file is if you've used, sniffing tools like Wireshark, etc., etc. Alright, so Tcpdump essentially it is a network sniffing tool that allows us to capture network packets and analyze them. Well, not analyze them, but understand them, alright? So let's get started with Tcpdump. Now, it is already pre-installed and pre-configured with Kali Linux, so that is the best part. Okay, so we don't have to install anything else. So all you need to do is just open up your terminal and open up the Tcpdump. Now, by default, there is a help menu if you want to check that out, Tcpdump. But most of the commands that you should be looking at, if I hit Tcpdump, it'll automatically just start capturing traffic or packets that are going through the network, alright? So we've not specified anything, but as you can see, it's just capturing random traffic, and essentially what's happening here is it's just going through all the traffic that's going through the network, alright? So what we need to do is we need to close this. As I said, it does come with a help menu, so you can check that out. So Tcpdump. And if we just use the help menu like so, it's going to display some help options. Now you can always refer back to this, but most of the important commands are usually not found here, because one of the things that you have to understand about Tcpdump is the commands are set up in a sort of pseudocode, and I'll explain as we move along or we move further. Alright, so the other important thing to understand is that the most crucial thing about Tcpdump, if you want to get the best network sniffing results, is that you need to use filters. Alright, so what are filters? Filters will allow you to narrow down your sniffing to the services that you do want to capture. So there's no point, capturing all the traffic that's going through a computer. Instead, you can focus on, specific traffic, like what traffic is going through what port, and you can specify the port that you want to read or you want to sniff the traffic or the packets from. Alright, so let's get started with actually performing some network sniffing with Tcpdump. Alright, so the first thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at how to filter or how to scan for an individual host IP. Alright, so we're actually going to be sniffing traffic off an IP address or a target for this matter. So in the previous video, we looked at network discovery. So hopefully you've discovered what targets that you want to perform your sniffing on. In my case, I'm going to be performing the sniffing on my Windows operating system. Alright, so I already know what the IP address is. The IP address is, if you can just open up your command prompt here. Let me just do that as well. The IP address is 192.168.1.104. Excellent. So what we're going to do is we're going to sniff the traffic or the packets that are flowing through this Windows operating system or this Windows computer for that matter. So we're going to open up Tcpdump, and we're just going to clear that out, and we're going to say Tcpdump. Alright, now as I said, the commands are going to be very specific to what you're doing. So Tcpdump, now we have to specify what type of target we are using. So we can say we are using a host. Alright, so the host, now we specify the host IP address, which is 192.168.1.104. Alright, so once we hit enter, it's going to start capturing the traffic that is flowing through this IP address, which is, as we know, the Windows operating system. So I'm going to hit enter, and as you can see, it is gathering all the traffic that is going through. Now, as I said, these are network sniffing tools. These tools allow you to sniff the traffic that is going through a computer or through the network if you choose to do so. Alright, so when we'll be looking at more advanced tools like Wireshark, you can look at how to analyze them or how to actually get information from the packets of data. Now, this is where, hackers or black hats would go through, and this is what they would target, is they would try to get credentials like emails or passwords while monitoring the traffic, obviously finding the most important bits of the traffic that they want to, that they find is crucial or has sensitive information. Alright, so that is how to sniff traffic of a single IP address or a host for this matter. The next thing we're going to be looking at is how to scan. As I said, we are going to be looking at a lot of filters. Alright, so one of the filters that we can use is specifying the ports, for example. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're just going to clear this up. And let's say you wanted to get only the TCP traffic. Alright, how would you do something like that? What we would do is we would type in tcpdump. Alright, and we would say TCP. Alright, so we wanted to get tcpdump at TCP. That is the protocol that we are following. Now, the most important thing that you need to understand here is, as I said, tcpdump uses a pseudocode when generating commands. So what you have to specify now is you have to use the AND command, right? So you're saying TCP AND for the host, which in this case we are going to be using the normal Windows IPs, which is 192.168.1.104. All right. So what's happening here is we are saying TCP dump. By the way, I made a small typo there. What's happening is we are saying, all right, we're saying start up TCP dump. We then want to only get TCP traffic from the host 192.168.1.104. All right. So I'm going to hit enter. And as you can see, it's only getting the TCP traffic. Fantastic. So that is another way of filtering or, really narrowing down what type of traffic that you want to sniff or what type of traffic you want to analyze. So that is fantastic, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to close this up and we can move on to, using ports or using ports to specify your sniffing or the sniffing process. All right. So we're going to say TCP dump and let's see, what port do we want to use? Let's use port 80, which is where all the traffic goes through. So port 80, and again, you have to use the AND, which is, pseudocode, and you have to specify the host now. So we're going to say host 192.168.1.104. Now, as you can see, this is getting really, really interesting, and it is very, very user intuitive in the sense that you can understand the command and what it's doing. So you're saying TCP dump, we want to get only traffic, from port 80, and from the host 192.168.1.104. Let's hit enter. There you go. It's going to start getting all the traffic from port 80. Now, because I'm not currently doing anything on the Windows operating system in terms of traffic incoming and outgoing, it's not going to capture anything. All right. So that was how to specify the fact that you want to capture data, from a certain port, and we've looked at services. You can always change the port that you want to capture data with. And Tcpdump is a very, very extensive tool in which you can customize almost every aspect of. Okay. So the next thing we're going to be looking at is how to output the recorded traffic into a PCAP file. All right. So let me just close this up. Now, this will require a lot of understanding now. Now, as I said, traffic files or, captured packets are stored. If you want to store them, they're usually stored in a PCAP file. You can analyze them or read or go through the traffic at a later time, obviously, because you've saved all the results in a file with popular tools like Wireshark, which, offer the user a graphical user interface, which, as I said, makes the user feel more comfortable, which we'll be looking at in the next video. But let's look at how to actually output some of this network sniffing into a PCAP file. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to change my directory to my desktop. So I actually save the file on the desktop, and now we can get started. So tcpdump. Now you have to actually specify the W command, which means write out W. And then we specify the name of the file that we want to output the sniff network or packets. All right. So the name can be something like results, right? So results.pcap. All right. That extension is very, very important. Now, the other extension that was used in the earlier days was the cap file, but now it is the pcap file, right? So now we need to specify, obviously, if we want to specify the sniffing process, so we can say we want TCP traffic or we only want traffic from a certain port. But in this case, we're not going to specify that. We're just going to say and host, which is 192.168.1.104. And once I hit enter, it's going to, oh, for some reason we have actually got an error here. Alright, so if you get this error, that is my bad, the syntax was wrong. I do not need the AND command there, alright, because we are not adding any more options to the scan. So as you can see, it's going to start listening for the traffic. It's going to save all the results in the PCAP file that you can see here is stored on the desktop, alright. So yeah, that's how to actually export your network sniffing packets or your captured packets into a PCAP file with tcpdump. Alright, so if we just close this up, and as you can see, the icon is a Wireshark icon. So if I double click on it, it'll probably not open because you have to actually open it up with Wireshark. Alright, so there we are. As you can see, Wireshark is open and I have 2 instances. So I'm just going to close one of them. For some reason, there we are. Let me just hit OK. And as you can see, this was the captured traffic that we were able to get, which is fantastic. And now with a tool like Wireshark, you can analyze the packets that you captured. All right. So that is going to be it for this video. In the next video, we'll be looking at network sniffing with Wireshark. So I hope you're excited and I'll be seeing you in the next video.